Hi, and welcome to Jules Voto's Photo Focus. In this video, I'm going to go over all the specifications and how to use the Minolta SRT 201. The SRT 201 is a direct descendant of the Minolta SRT 101, which came out in 1966. And the 201 was a 1975 update to the 101. A lot of similar features, and I'm going to go over all of them. This model actually came out in 1977, has the same name as the 1975 201. They just made a few changes, and again, we'll go over those as we get into the camera. So why don't we start with the top right of the camera as you're holding the camera, and we have our shutter speed dial with speeds from B to 1/1000th of a second. You will note that a 60th of a second is marked in red. That is your electronic flash sync speed. Okay, to the right of that, also on the shutter speed dial, if you raise the little ring around the shutter speed dial, you can change your ISO. And the ISO on this camera can be set from 6 up to 6400. So for our purposes right now, we're just going to leave it set at 400. Okay, we have our film advance lever with a plastic tip. Film could be advanced in one continuous stroke or several smaller strokes. In the center of the film advance lever, we have a threaded cable release socket on the shutter release. To the right of that, we have our frame counter. Okay, so pretty simple. On the left side of the camera, we have our rewind knob and fold-out crank. Okay, you also note a film plane indication here. That works as if you're doing extreme macro photography with a bellows or extension tubes to help you to figure magnification and the exposure compensation that would be needed. We also have on the 201 a hot shoe, unlike the original SRT 101 that just had a cold shoe. Okay, let's come to the front of the camera now. All right, we will see we have a self-timer, and while the self-timer works, make sure our film shutter is cocked. You just swing it out and then press the button. All right, and the shutter fires. Let's get this lens cap off here. Okay, also on the front of the camera, we have a depth of field preview button. If you can see here, by pressing in this button, it stops the lens down to the set aperture. This is, I believe, an improvement over the SRT 101. The SRT 101, you would press the button, the lens would stop down and stay stopped down, and you'd have to press it again to have the lens open up to maximum aperture. Okay, on the other side of the camera, we have a flash sync socket, okay, to plug in your electronic flash if it didn't have a hot shoe. Okay, and you will notice on the 201 there's a single socket. On the 101 it had two sockets, one marked FP, which was for flash bulbs, and the other marked X. Also on this side we have our lens release, lens lock release. Just press it down and you can remove the bayonet mount lens. Okay, to mount the lens you just match up the red dot on the lens with the red dot on the camera. Okay. All right, now let's go to the back of the camera before we go to the bottom. On the back of the camera here, we also have a film box slot. The end of the film box, you just rip it off and you could just slide in the end of the box just as a reminder as to what type of film you have in the camera. Okay, to load the camera. Okay. One thing I always do before loading a film camera is just make sure there's no film in the camera. Maybe you had loaded up a roll, you forgot about it, you go to open the back and now you're going to ruin the film. So just unfold your rewind crank and just turn it a little bit. If it turns freely with no resistance, there's no film in the camera. Okay, so what we're going to do to open the back, you just pull up on the rewind knob, the back springs open. And just real quick, we could see here we have a cloth focal plane, horizontally traveling focal plane shutter to load film. This is a bulk roll that I loaded myself. Just going to show you how to do that. You just close the, push down the rewind knob, and it's a multi-slotted take-up spool. Okay, let's just turn this a little bit. I just want to show you where that's going. You just drop that in there. Okay, just push it in, make sure it catches, and then advance the film. Okay, make sure it engages the sprocket holes on the film, engage the sprocket in the camera in top and bottom. Okay, if there's some slack here, you can tighten that up by turning the rewind crank a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to close the back. And one other thing before closing the back, when you're loading film, just be careful not to touch the shutter curtains, okay? Okay, so now we close the back, and what I always do before making my blanks is I open up this rewind crank, okay? Leave it out. So now we're going to make our blanks. And as I do that, notice the rewind crank. Okay, now I'm going to make another blank. Notice how it's turning. If it's turning, that means that the film is loaded properly and has caught on the take-up spool and is being advanced. Okay, once you make your two blanks, you could close that up. All right, so we're going to take the film out of the camera now, and I will explain the other things on the bottom of the camera in a second, but we're just going to press in the rewind button. Okay, we're going to unfold our rewind crank, and I'm not going to rewind this all the way in. All right, I heard it come off the take-up spool. Okay, and I'm going to take that film out. All right, so let's close it back up again, and let me go back to the bottom of the camera and just explain that real quick. All right, so we have our rewind button, okay? We have our battery compartment, and the older Minoltas, the SRT 101 and others, battery compartment was in the same spot, but you had to use your thumb to open it. Okay, just kind of press down and turn. It also had two little slots. You could put some type of a tool in there to help you open it up. On this, you just use, as with most cameras, you just use a coin, and a nickel works fine, all right? And it took, originally, a 1.35 volt mercury battery. Those are no longer made, so you could use a replacement cell. Wine makes a replacement cell. Or you could have the camera modified to accept a 1.5 volt silver battery. We also on the bottom have our tripod socket and our meter switch. Now let me just talk about the meter for a minute. We have a battery check position. Okay, we're just going to, again, using your thumb, you're just going to turn it to BC. To turn on the meter, you just turn it to on. And it has your typical match needle metering. Also, shutter speeds are visible at the bottom of the viewfinder. This camera uses a single CDS cell. Previous Minoltas, including the earlier version of this SRT 201, used what's called a CLC metering system. The SRT 101 did, the SRT 100, the SRT 202, 201, and how can you tell what it has? If you just look below the letter M on Minolta, you will see CLC. CLC system used two CDS cells. It was an early version of matrix metering, of segmented metering. One cell read one area, the other cell read the other area. When they went to this camera, to the late model, 1977 to 81 SRT 201, they simplified the metering system, and it uses just a single CDS cell. The battery is only needed for the meter. There's a great many lenses available on the used market in the Minolta mount. Now there's something else I should point out that the SRT 201 doesn't have, that the SRT 101 did have, and that is a mirror lock. Okay, mirror lockup. Right here on the 201, you can see it right here, okay, right above the self-timer. The 201 does not. So if you really need mirror lockup, then you want to look for one of the Minoltas that has it. Mirror lockup would be used for long exposures, camera on a tripod, macro photography, things like that. And one big improvement, in my opinion, to the 201 over the 101 was the addition of a split image rangefinder focusing screen with a micro prism donut around it, and made focusing wide angle lenses, focusing in low light, anywhere you could find a vertical line much easier. And the 201 just had a central micro prism spot for focusing, and I just don't think it's as good, at least with wide angle normal lenses, than the split screen. The plain micro prism works fine, I think, with longer lenses, but again, that split screen just makes focusing, especially with wide angles, much easier. Otherwise, the cameras are pretty similar. They're the exact same size as well. These Minoltas are very reliable, all metal construction, and will last for years. Okay, so that's it for this video on the Minolta SRT 201. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell so you will be reminded of any time I come out with a new video. If you have any questions, please email me or leave them in the comments below. I will respond. I come out with a new video every Wednesday morning around 11 a.m. So I will talk to you next time.